Claudia Elliott, and today I want to give you some tips about this white elephant in our classroom, and that is called online translators. So my name is Claudia Elliott. I'm a high school Spanish teacher since 2005, and I love to share and I love to learn about second language acquisition and social emotional learning. I am super excited to share some tips with you today. So let's start. I want to talk to you about 3 things today. Like the first one is, why do our students use online translators so much? And you may not already know the answers. The second one is, I want to share with you some of the strategies that I use in my class that have really reduced the use of online translator. And finally, what can we do when we see our students use online translators? So let's start with one, and I think it's not going to be a surprise for you. So why our students use an online translator? So the first reason is because sometimes the text that we provide to our students or the audio may be too incomprehensible. So when we're talking about the text, our students tend to just copy the entire text and put it in an online translator, and boom, that was the reading. And we're not accomplishing anything. And if you think about it, if we provide texts that are comprehensible to them, or with support to make it comprehensible to them, the chances that they're going to be use online translator are going to decrease. Now, the second reason is because sometimes the task that we design for our students or we assign to our students is above the proficiency level, and they really don't even know where or how to start. The third reason is talking about grading. Our students feel like they need to be perfect, that there cannot be errors in the conjugations or in some spelling, and that is so into their head that they feel sometimes that they need to use the online translator to make it perfect. And finally, online translators are everywhere and they're free, and it's just sometimes just like a click and voila, everything is translated. So we have a big white elephant. What can we do? Some strategies so we can promote the use of authentic language. How can we really have our students to use what they have in our classes? These are some strategies that I implement in my class, and hopefully they're going to help you. So the first one is to stay comprehensible. I know, right? That's much easier said than done. But I will share with you some strategies in face-to-face and in visual that can help you stay more comprehensible. The second one is something that sometimes we miss in our classes, or I used to miss in the past a lot, and it's talk about proficiency. And it's been intentional when I talk about proficiency for my students and for me. The third one is support all your students with scaffolds. Scaffolding. I know I didn't think that it was so important in the past, but every time that I use more and more, I use that my students use less and less online translators. And finally, personalized content. Personalizing content really engage my students and discourage them to use online translator. So let's talk about stay comprehensible. So how can you stay comprehensible when you provide like a written text? Adding visuals. That is super easy to do. If you add visuals, you have that image in their head and it helps them to make your text more comprehensible. The second one is really try to focus on frequent vocab. So when we are providing a text to our students, or when we are providing oral input to our students, let's focus on that frequent vocab that is going to help them to gain proficiency and fluency, but also it keeps us kind of like sheltered. So that frequent vocab for me is the 7 Superverbs by Terry Waltz, and then I move to the Sweet 16. The next step is established meaning of unknown vocab words. Now, of course, when I'm talking about that, we need to have few unknown words, because there is too much, then our task becomes just too big for them. So when you are introducing new words, establish meaning. By what? By gestures. Yeah, I know, the mask, right? But we can use our tone of voice, we can point, we can draw, we can write on the board, we can ask our students to tell us the meaning of something. And also, if you are in the classroom, you can use your walls. Again, if you're providing materials, another great way to establish meaning is with glosses, like at the bottom or the side of your text. And again, is keep it comprehensible. The last strategy, the last tip is go very, very slow. Less is more, and now more than ever. You may be thinking, okay, what about in visual? What about if I am behind a computer and I cannot use my walls and it just becomes a little bit more difficult? I have some tools to share with you that have helped me to stay comprehensible even in the visual. I'm going to move myself a little bit here because, okay, so if you have, if you're using live video, if you have live sessions, or even if you're recording, using Zoom is a great way to provide fantastic comprehensible input to our students. You can use virtual backgrounds with words or with images. Also, you can record some videos in Flipgrid with some words and some words next to you that is going to help you stay comprehensible in your speech. I love to use Clipomatic. Clipomatic allows me to create like short videos for my students with subtitles, but this is the best part. The subtitles are gonna pick if my speech is slow. So I'm doing two things. I'm slowing down so the Clipomatic can like pick up on my speech, but also I'm providing subtitles for them. So it is great. And I love to illustrate. When I'm telling a story, or even if I'm talking about a person, or I'm talking about an event, or I'm talking about a country or a place, I like to draw. When I draw, it slows me down. So in my classroom, I have my whiteboard, of course, but also online, we have so many online whiteboards that are free. I know Zoom has a whiteboard that you can use to illustrate. Teams and Microsoft has also a tool for whiteboards, but there are other whiteboards available for free that you can use in your videos where you can illustrate at the same time that you are providing that speech. The last one is keep it short, right? The research says that, no more than 6 minutes, sometimes 7 minutes, but no more than that. So even if we're in the classroom, let's just keep an eye on the watch and time ourselves not to just speak for longer period of times. And now with the different situations where we're teaching, I feel like keeping small, short videos are gonna be much more doable for our students. Now, these are some of the tools that I have used. So I talked to you about Flipgrid. So in Flipgrid, it has new filters, and in the new filters, you can add text to your video. And they're really short videos, super easy to do. You can add images, you can add frames. It's so fun, right? So you can create a really short video to provide oral input to your students. Now, below that, you see some of my visual backgrounds that I use in Zoom when I teach live, but in Zoom. So I have always these words around me of new words that I know that my students may have some difficulty with them, and I'm pointing to that at all times. Online whiteboards. I feel like no matter the level that you're teaching, online whiteboards are a great way for you to provide input. Now, if you're talking about a text, something that I do and I learned from my Peto is I'm going to tell a little bit about my document, my text, before I provide the text. So I want to make sure that I'm going to capture the keywords, the main ideas of my written text before I provide the written text, using some of these oral input tools in my virtual and also in my face-to-face. So the last one is Clipomatic. So I'm just, doing a little short video for my class, and I'm talking about the dates and the weather and what we're gonna do today. And this is providing a lot of, all my subtitles, and they do it automatically, and they're pretty accurate. So these are 4 different tools that you can use to stay comprehensible, even if you're not face-to-face. So let's talk about proficiency. We need to keep real expectations. I didn't do this that intentional at the beginning of my practice, but year by year, I understand the importance of keeping the proficiency level of my students in my head all the time. I want to know what my students should be able to do at the level, and I want to design my task with that level in mind, so I'm not asking them to produce something that they're not ready, or to understand something that they're not ready. This chart helped me to kind of like understand in general terms, like, when we're talking about novice, we're talking about words and phrases and very, very simple sentences. When we're talking about intermediate, they start creating with the language, really messy, a lot of, just messy, with a lot of grammar errors, not really being consistency with those tenses. And then at the end of my intermediate, and when we are getting to that advanced level, is when we see that consistency in the language. This helped me a lot. So when I provide tasks and design tasks for my students, I always keep this in mind. And I also share this with them so they know that they don't need to be perfect, because perfection is not expected in the world language classrooms. My third tip is scaffolds. So we all know that input precedes output by a mile, according to Susan Gross, and she just put it in perfect. This sentence is just perfect. And also I love this visual by SpanishPlans.org, where we can see how you comprehend so much more that you can write and then you can speak. I like to show this to my students too, and I like to keep it in mind so we know and we keep our expectations real. And the more real they are, the less chances is that your students are gonna go to that online translator. Now, because that input precedes output, that output really comes after so much time. But our students want to play with the language, right? So I want to provide the scaffolds for my students to be able to play and produce the language. They want to tell me about themselves, and I want to hear it. So I provide this where they can describe themselves. And I'm giving them sentence starters, sentence frames, some vocab that they can use, and they have this and they can play, they can really use the language, and they're providing a little bit of words because that's the level, right? Words and memorized phrases. So they are giving me that using these scaffolds. The great part about scaffolds is that the students who need it are going to use it, but those students who are in the higher proficiency level are not going to be depending on this. So these are some for novice learners. I have some for intermediate learners where the language is going to like go above that, phrase or words. But these are great for them too, because, they're creating and it seems messy and they really don't know where to start. So I want to provide those tools for them. I like to provide with questions. Like I really want them to start generating those ideas and brainstorm those ideas by asking the questions, like what type of questions you should be addressing. This is Impact Cloud by Megan Buck, and she let me use it in this presentation. And she's talking about details and impact in our text and how we can add more text to more details to our text and the language that we're creating with the prepositions. So these are like great tools that are going to help us really guide our students and support our students, and then they're going to use less and less online translator. Okay, so we have stay comprehensible, we have real expectations with the proficiency, support your students with scaffold, and finally, less personal language. Your students love to talk about themselves, right? They just love it. So we can do that because our students come to our classes with so many experiences, interests, and talents. So you can select images, music, and videos that relates to them. They can connect with their own experiences. So when we ask them to record something or write something, let's talk about them, their favorite pet, their favorite family member, their favorite food, their favorite place to go, what is their favorite restaurant. So make it about them will really discourage the use of online translator. I love this quote by Dr. Mariana Castro, and she said, "We cannot ask our students to leave who they are at the door. Let's amplify their language." So when we provide the scaffolds and we let them talk about what they have, they really are going to engage with the content better. Now, we do all that, and then they use online translators. So what are we gonna do? I have some tips for you. Let's address the situation with celerity and certainty. Means let's talk to them right then. Let's not wait, right? Let's not wait until the situation gets even worse and worse and worse. Uncertainty said, if you have a student who keeps doing online translator, we just cannot get tired and say, okay, well, I'm not going to talk about it anymore because, I'm just so tired. We need to show up and be certain that we are going to address the issue. We want to stay positive and open an authentic conversation and focus on the action and not on the person. And I know this is, again, much easier to say than done. But I have some feedback already that you can use to help you, some sentence frames, right? Like scaffolds. Because sometimes when we are frustrated and when we're upset, we can just get really personal and kind of damage our relationships. But if we use these type of sentence frames, we can help our students to focus on the actions, not on them, try to really have an authentic and positive conversation and don't damage our relationship. So these are some sentence frames that I learned by K Huynh in one of the webinars that he did in my Facebook group. And he's talking about when you do that, it results on this. So let's focus on actions and not person. I use these sentence frames to the use of online translator. So when you use an online translator, it doesn't let me see what you can do with the language. If you want to describe with more details, maybe you can use this instead of online translator. I noticed that you're really working on your details. That move you up into proficiency level. So these are some sentence frames that I feel it will give us at least the start of a positive conversation with the students. That was it. Hopefully those tips and strategies will help you battle the use of online translators in your class, because I feel it doesn't have to be bad. Online translators can help us. It helps me a lot to try to figure out how to spell a word or how to say something that I'm not really sure. So I think that's fine when it's a support. But online translator, when they become their language, that is when we have a problem. So I hope these strategies and tips help you with that. Bye.